Let us welcome Mohammed Sofa.
Assalamu alaikum. And dhammaantiin waan salaamayaa and waxaan marka hore u mahadcelinayaa the Somali Women's Circle Network oo soo abaabulay barnaamijkan hore noo soo sameeyey si loo xuso International Women's Day oo ay maanta bishan March and sideedeeda insha Allah. Marka waxaan aad ugu faraxsanahay inaan our topic ku hadlo runtii igu cusub aniga oo igu qaatay inaan lafteedu aan fikir ka sameeyo, but my presentation is going to be in English, just so that I can be at ease and also hopefully get my message across. So in celebration for International Women's Day, I was asked to look at this, and as a young parent and as an African father, knowing where I came from and my own history, knowing that the issue of women's rights are not favorably looked or have not been favorable to people in our society, particularly back home. And certainly I bring that with me. That's my history and also the history of many people here. But so in the presentation, we will look at the gender equity before we go into gender sensitivity and equality and what those things mean. What is gender sensitivity? So we live in a society where this is expected of all of us, and these are values that are actually found in every place of the Canadian society. What influences identity, gender identity, and other stereotypes, and families, where it all begins. How do we, as a community, as individuals, make sure that our young are getting what they need to be well and to understand justice and the rights of others? And then, inshallah, some final thoughts after that. So quickly, at 15 minutes, this can go on for days, by the way, so some of you are more, I think, versed in this than I am. But this is not a light topic. So in the 15 minutes I have, let's look at what is gender equality, because this is International Women's Day, and I think we need to talk about equality, we need to talk about rights. Essentially, having same as men, same access, same opportunity, no discrimination, no preference for the best jobs, no preference for decision making, and trying to find some balance in society so that every woman has an equal chance to make her own decisions, and also to get fair share of what is rightly hers. And then the other term that we were going to discuss as we talk about this is equity. And so fairness, the same benefit. Obviously we live in Canada, and that this is not a strange word to us, but also rights and justice. That's something that I think the International Women's Day was created for, is to raise this awareness. So my topic then, gender sensitivity. I think even myself, just thinking about this topic, as a male, there are words that I use. For example, where the term "where no man has gone before." Well, why does it have to be men? It could be where no one has gone before, right? Make it gender neutral. So being sensitive to the gender ideas, beings, and humanity in general, and not thinking about going away from my nomadic tradition and thinking more of the current needs of our society as things have changed. Obviously, we are different, and when we talk about gender sensitivity, we're not talking about women having exactly the same as men, and men, having exactly as men, but we are different. And I think the difference of the two genders is what we need to consider as our roles change in society. The needs are unique, and I have a video I want to show you after, but the needs are so unique that I think often we take for granted what it means to live in an industrialized Western society in the 21st century, and what that means for a woman, and what it also means for a man, and how do we negotiate between the various conflicts that can come with our environment. So language. So looking at, for example, a stay-home mom or stay-home parent isn't always a woman now. There are many fathers who choose to do that as well. So just changing that language. It's not a stay-home mom, it's a stay-home parent. Other assumptions that society has is, for example, thinking about boys and girls. Boys automatically like sports. Girls want to play with the dolls. Is that something that we should make that assumption right away, or is that something that we let kids figure that out on their own and let them? Maybe they like to. The girls like to play a bit of sport, and the boys like to write poetry, and that's something that is not. It's a judgment we make before we start. We want to enroll the kids into sport, the boys into sports, and maybe the girls into dance. But that's not always the way things turn out in reality. Well, some of the influences of gender and identity, obviously, these are big. The biggest one is home and family, mom and dad. Society, of course, the influences are great. And the popular culture and media play a significant role in how a man, particularly a visible minority man, a black man, and the way that their identity is constructed is something that we should be thinking about in terms of gender sensitivity. What is expected of me from the world as a black man? What is as an immigrant man? And these are some of the things that we should be careful about when we're raising our kids, so that we can provide them the skills and the nurture that they need to get ahead in the world, and also adjust and fit in as well as they can. So home, obviously this is where my department is. Home is where the greatest conflict is, because we tend, kids go out from us in the morning, and they come back with a program that's been built into them. They were in school, they interact with friends, they see things, and then our job is to deconstruct their lives and give them the support they need to understand. I have to tell you, it is challenging, because my daughter just started school, and I think 2-3 months into it, she came back and she said, my friend is having a birthday, and she was allowed to invite one black person, and she already has one. But I think, but imagine so obviously my job is not to react and to make her feel that, her friend is wrong. But I want to know what, how can I downplay this and let her eventually develop those skills to understand what her friend said and how she can deal with that. And maybe her friend, was, didn't know what she was doing that day. But at the end of the day, if I said, "What, your friend is racist?" I'm sure she would have gone back to class and said, "My dad said you're a racist." But I think the whole point is that, at that moment, as a father, I had to also, settle down, understand where things are coming from, and allow my child to also have that experience, and maybe things are going to turn out differently than what she said down the road. So it's obvious that the women are the primary caretakers for children, young children. It is still true, but that's changing as well, and I think that's something that we need to consider, not only for fathers, but also to support women in this change that's happening. The terms we're using at home, something we always should highly be sensitive is, girls are this, boys are that. Not always the case, and those are negative descriptions or view of the world anyways. We talked about the girls, as being called names when they can run and jump. And I think that thinking about how do we as adults, as parents, and as a community, also provide that guidance, the role modeling, and so young people can emulate our values and gravitate towards what we bring out to the world. Essentially, what this is, whatever we put out in the world gets captured by our young people. And I must say, one of the things people always talk about Somalia and its problems, and I often say, greatest missed opportunity for Somalis is this idea of compassion for everyone. And if we can show that, the compassion and the righteousness of how to help and how to support people and how to give people their God-given rights, we'll do very well. Now, so language is where it begins. Home is important, but what we say matters more than anything else, especially to kids, because the words are magical to them at a young age. And so adjusting our language as we talk about the other gender is key. Well, if we're complaining about the father, if we're complaining about the mother, how we say those words are very important, because by the age of 4 to 5, they have they have a very stable understanding, and they have a pretty set view of the other gender. We're not talking about 15-year-old and 17 and 20-year-old when we're trying to now bring them back to form. But we're talking about at a very young age, majority of the kids have settled with their ideas of others and respect and their position and their role, their status, and I should be this and you should be that, and this is my job and that's your job. So if we don't adjust those roles in our daily lives and show and lead a neutral roles for both children and certainly for our houses, we're going to have a hard time addressing what comes out after. I often deal with either teachers or other support workers in the schools, and the most common complaint they have is disrespect from young men of immigrant communities. Most of the workers in the schools are women, but a lot of the young men, our boys, by the way, so this is the term we're going to speak, this is how we're going to speak about them, our boys, they have a hard time respecting some of these women. And I mean, the disrespect is one thing, but also it's stopping them from growth. If let's say you disrespected someone and you moved on, it'll be one thing, but from what we're seeing is that the more common that attitude is and more prevalent it is in young person's life, the less likely they're going to also be successful in other parts of life, whether it's family, employment, further education, and so on. So I'm always, in the Somali community, we say, why do the girls do so well? And I'm not going to stereotype here, but it's a question. And why are we struggling with our young men? And I think we have to go back home. And this is not a blame, but this is, we're having a discussion. We got to go back home, but we also we have to go back to our community and how we view the role of the male and the role of the woman. And if the role of the man is to be out and about, less focused, less responsibility, girl doing all the work at home, being more responsible, taking care of others. I mean, obviously she's getting all the nurture. She's doing all the right things that you would do in school setting, you would do in employment setting, and the young man is being busy dribbling that ball. And I think as a parent, as a parent of black children, as an immigrant, as someone who's lived in poverty and has seen what happens there, I have to be cautious of that as a parent, and I have to know that there's a way. We've experienced a set of circumstances that we don't want to repeat again. Oh, actually, there's a video. Do you mind playing that video? I think it's already in YouTube. This is in Hindi, by the way, but there are subtitles. I just want you to be curious. In India, and the reason why this came from India, India is having a very lively discussion about the role of women and women's rights. As you remember, the last few years, there's been high-profile cases of women being raped in often. I mean, some of them on a bus, and tragic. But that was a laundry detergent commercial. Obviously, the emotion of the societies is where this is targeting. But I think the scary part is that the world is changing so fast. And some of the things we're seeing is that women who are doing everything, and I know the Somali community, this is notorious. Women do everything. And often, that itself could be a negative role modeling, because as you watch your mom get up in the morning and then come and be on all day, and then go to work in the evening, and then come back and up in the morning, and that could be challenging for young. So what do we teach our young people as they watch that daily activity? And I think if we're not careful about the messages that we send out to the world, and we're forgetting them. Kids are kids is often what we say, right? But they're making their own rules as they move on. They're making their assumptions, and often I think we forget how much power and influence we have on them. So obviously the housework, my favorite one, I have to say two stories. One of them, I asked a young man to peel. Actually, no. Last summer we had a program where young people in our community were coming. It's a summer camp for youth 13 plus, and 13 to 15 pre-employment. They don't work, they don't go to school. So we figured we'll do something for them. So we said, let's give them some life skills. So we were cooking, I think day 2 or 3. I'm coming down the stairs. I'm watching this kid peel a potato. 2 kids, one Sudanese kid, one Somali kid. This Sudanese kid is like, he's peeling. Somali kid, he does not know where to begin. And you know, so I videotaped. Unfortunately, I deleted that video at some point, but I should have shown you tonight. I videotaped because I was so surprised. And you know what? So that young man has a young sister, and I know how much work she does. Obviously, she's getting better skills. Obviously, she's working harder. It's not just about giving women some time to relax. That's not what we're talking about. I'm really not saying that's the message. It's about giving both people the right perspective of life, and that we all equally have to contribute as much as possible. And I'm not saying, you know, let's all be a feminist and go from a feminist practice or approach. But the point is that we got to have a dialogue, and I'm hoping this is a conversation more than a lecture, because that's not certainly how I wanted to be. The other one was, I asked a young man, at the end of the day, it was the 2 of us left in the office. I'm like, look, you know, somebody's here early in the morning, there's a little bit of mess, let's clean up. So he had a broom and a dustpan. I swear to God, he went all around the room with the dustpan in his hand and the broom in the other hand. So he was picking up every little piece, you know, with his back down, instead of sweeping the room and picking up the truth is, 17-year-old obviously comes from a home, but certainly as a community, we have to question ourselves that those skills are promoted, they're primary in the education life, in the work life, in the emotional intelligence and relationship building life, in just logically, if you don't have those skills, it's much harder for you to get ahead in the society. So in final words, so obviously we are a Muslim community, and we're a cultural community. We are in a mature, industrialized Western country. Certainly there are conflicts, and there are differences. And I think maybe let's just also talk about that there are differences, but also, and let's reflect. So reflection is key. Unless we start to think about these things and notice. We talk. Somalia is on the theme tonight, and I think one of the things to reflect upon is that most of the early childhood educators, or the grade 1 and 2, 3s in primary schools in Somalia, are not women. Surprise! They're mostly men. Okay, so another question, just as a reflection. Everybody uses one of the money transfer companies here, one way or another, right? How many women work in those companies? Have you seen a woman working for one? Have you seen, even in Somalia, those of you who have been to Somalia, I don't think there is one. We're talking about a population of like 12 million or more. And so we got to start questioning these things. So I had a friend here last week, a few weeks ago rather, and he has a big school with 3,000 kids in somewhere in Somalia, and he asked them, how many employees you have? He said, well, we're about 100 people, and how many are women? He said, 3. And he was like, look, I'm trying. He's like, I'm trying, but the society is not, it's not really there. And he said, look, most interesting part about not having women in our teaching, as teachers in our schools, is that the women leave often. This is a very transitional society. The Somalis are nomads. They go from one town to one country to one sea to the other. So he said all the men, actually that we trained, all the young men are gone. But women are here. They're there. They're in the community, and we haven't trained them. So now there's a dialogue to have women teachers in his schools. The point is, though, we got to reflect on obvious things that are in our society, and if you don't do that, we're not really pushing this equality and equity pieces that we're talking about. Being gender sensitive, it's a part of that. It's not, doesn't come on its own. So compassion, understanding as well. Everybody's at a different place, so we come with a lot of assumptions. We want our tea shahay, right? Obviously, and there are growing that needs to be done. But I think finding that understanding is key. Changing our language as much as possible. I think language is the primary piece that needs to change with our children at home, in our community as well as we move forward. The types of words that come out of mouth are at the end of the day acted on somewhere. And I'm hoping this is a discussion for us, and this is a discussion for us to take it home and to have with our children or our cousins and brothers and sisters and others. And with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation. And once again, would like to thank the Somali Women's Circle Network for having me, and for also hosting this opportunity for all of us together. Thank you.